Welcome to our home. The home of learning and achievement.
The home of friendship.
The home of creativity and innovation.
The home of culture.
The home of compassion.
We are the future, and this is our home.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. Beyond grades, more than grades, we have Ms. Elma, our VP CAS coordinator, as our host, and it's a pleasure to have you this evening. And tonight we have three guest speakers. Andre Rahadian, Mr. Stan, our SWA UGC counselor, and our alumni, Vijjasena. So I welcome you all. It's a pleasure. We're here to provide you some inspiration on what can be done in terms of service learning and opportunities to give back to the community. So without any further ado, I will hand over to our host, Ms. Elma.
Thank you, Mr. Alex. Good evening, everyone. CAS is the experiential learning element at the core of the IBDP program, where our students get to flourish intellectually and emotionally. At Sinarmas World Academy, we fully embraced and thrived on the philosophy of providing service for the mutual benefit of society and the students' own holistic personal development. Having gone through our Services Action Program during their MYP years, starting from grade 6, our IBDP students have profound understanding of the importance of CAS. As in conjunction with our school curriculum, which builds on their academic, scientific, and IT skills, creativity, activity, and service has allowed them to develop into competent, confident, and compassionate young adults accepted at the best universities around the world. So tonight, as our students are at the moment planning various innovative projects and continuing successful ones, of course, obviously all tailored to the current challenging circumstances, we're honored to have our guest speakers here to give them insightful ideas, as Mr. Alex said, valuable tips, and lots of inspiration. I will start by introducing Mr. Andre Rahadian, who is the head of volunteer coordinating team with the National Task Force for COVID-19. He's also the chair of the Alumni Association of Universitas Indonesia. Welcome, Pa Andre. Thank you so much for being here. We're also privileged to have Mr. Stanislav Sousek, or Mr. Stan as we know him, who is a highly experienced university guidance counselor here at Sinarmas World Academy, who has been helping our students for a few years now with their demanding applications to top global universities. Good evening, Mr. Stan.
Good evening, thank you.
And then we have our Sinarmas World Academy alumnus, who was part of class 2020, so a COVID graduate, who is now a student at Yale University, having chosen Yale from the 4 Ivy League schools that he was accepted at with scholarships and aids. In fact, he has taken the time from his busy pre-orientation week to be here. He's also the founder of a student-led initiative called COVID-19, a non-profit student organization aimed at moving and deploying students to help with the COVID relief. It's on track now to make 100,000 face shields by December this year, and it's delivered 35,000. So welcome back, Seda. It's nice to have you.
Thank you, Ms. Alma. Nice to be back.
Excellent. So we also have our enthusiastic student panelists joining us. Students, you can turn your camera on. Hi. Excellent. Thank you for being here. It's been a long day for them. And thank you. So you can switch your camera off now. We'll see you later with your questions. Okay. We will start this evening with a presentation from Pak Andre. Silakan Pak Andre.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ibu Elma. Hi, Mr. Stan, Sena, all the faculties from SWA, students and parents. Okay, let me try. Sorry, hold on. Hi, yes, a very good morning, very good evening. As Ibu Elma mentions, I'm presenting in my positions as the coordinator for volunteers from the task force handling COVID-19. I'm going to present you on 4 items. Basically, it's on the what are the volunteers in the COVID-19 task force and work being done by us in the past 4 months, almost 5 months now, and then the lesson learned and encouragement for volunteers. I hope that you can take something out of these presentations and create the projects for your own volunteers actions. So basically, if we can show you what are the basic regulations of the volunteering in the disaster response, it's basically under regulations number 17 of 2011. You can see that there are 3 sectors of that. First, what are the volunteers? Means a person or group. So it can be individuals or a group of people. And you have to be compassionate and have skills. That's the second clue. And the third clue are it work voluntarily and wholeheartedly in disaster response. So based on these 3 factors, we can see this is the basic understanding of volunteers. This is basically the basis of how we recruit volunteers and how we place them in actions. Why the task force includes us, the coordinating for volunteers, because this is several working principles. First, in this pandemic, in this non-natural disaster response, the task force need fast and appropriate actions. Because sometimes if it's coming from the government, it takes time. And in this pandemic, we need the fast and appropriate actions. Second, we need to set up our priorities. For example, on the beginning of pandemic, we heard and we read from the news that there are lack of PPE, hospitals suffering from overloaded of patients. And then later, in the last 2-3 months, we have also seen people have difficulties from economic point of view. So we are setting priorities based on what it needs. Third, it's work that need coordination. So we work in coordinations with the task force, the national task force, the regional task force. We work with the ministerials. We work together with all other movement, and we include as many as possible organizations in this effort. Fourth, we have to work on efficiency and effective, and then we have to do it in transparent and accountable, because we work based on the donors funding. We work with many peoples in partnership, and as coordinating, we need to have to be able to empower the society, empower many people that need to be involved in this effort. And in doing that, we cannot discriminate, and basically we have to handle this carefully, and then we work on the basis of gender equality, and because this is a nationwide, we need to respect the local wisdoms. There are 4 code of ethics for volunteers under the Satgas, under the task force, that this is a call to humanitarian work, and that give us the motivations. It have to be independent, so there is no affiliations of politics or otherwise. Third, we have to respect the local customs and capacities, and you have to be accountable. So because we work on the nationwide, sometimes the monitoring will be a bit less, and the accountability of everything or every volunteers in participating in this effort are very high. What are skills needed? As I can explain to you, for task force, there are 2 big groups. First, the medical and then the non-medical volunteers. For the medicals, we follow all the requirements under the organizations like the Indonesian Doctor Associations, a nurse. They are already have a set of skills. But what I'm presenting here is skills needed for non-medical volunteers. So basically there are soft skills and hard skills. Basically we are based on this, there are open less requirements and minimum requirements, except some we strictly enforce on age requirements because this is quite risky and have exposures to a virus. So we have a requirement on age and permits from parents. At the beginning, we face a challenge because the volunteers that work in disaster normally work in natural disaster. This is the first time the nation faced a non-natural disaster. So the expectations of volunteering is very heroic. You help people get out of the collapsed building, take people from ambulance, help the wounded and things like that. But in this case, we work on the data. The task force need volunteers to help on the data, and we work based on the data. So we're collecting this. One of the main tasks of volunteers are required basically informations. We work based on data and protocols. One of the work that we done is that we fight fake news, because we've seen a lot of not only pandemic but infodemic, they call it. There's a lot of news going around that can you see the full screen now? Yeah, so this is type of the works that we've done. There are 3 missions for volunteers. We are recruiting and supporting medical and non-medic volunteers. We working with those affected, and then we also support the health facilities, the hospital, the puskesmas, and we provide the medical staff itself for their PPE. We support their vitamins. We give them extra food and everything. We also, the third mission is we support people's member of the public that affected economically by the pandemic. We've seen people lost jobs or reduce on their income. So we handle this in terms providing sembako, the foods and others basic needs.
Andre, can you maybe if you press present, we can see the pictures?
Oh, you haven't seen the pictures? Okay. Hold on. Wait.
Excellent.
You see now?
All good now. Thank you.
But it's small, right? Or not?
All good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So these are the 3 missions that I mentioned earlier. Statistically, this is the latest conditions. I present you the data as of 9th of August. We updated, this is daily, but since Miss Alma requested last week, so this is the data from early this week, this Sunday. We have 31,373 volunteers. 7,400 are medical volunteers. 23,000 or almost 24,000 are non-medic volunteers. If you can see the map, it's spread out throughout Indonesia. And from the age, you can see the age group, 80% are below 40 and almost 60% is between 19 to 30 years old. So we have a quite young volunteers from the age group. So from the medical volunteers, we have 1,800 that already placed in various hospitals, various health facilities, including the hospitals outskirts Jakarta and also the emergency hospital in Surabaya, in Batam, and in Jakarta. The biggest portions are in Wisma Atlet. These are types of work that they are working on. Majority of the volunteers from medics basically working from as a nurse, general practitioners, and we also have basically people who do the tracing, help us in collecting data. For non-medical volunteers, we train them on a daily basis. Every day we have 2 sessions of training. Right now there are 6,145 volunteers that already trained. Basically, their training is what is the volunteering, what is COVID, how to handle it, and what can you do. So this type of training we given to all volunteers before we place them into work. The big things right now is entering the new normal. Since Jakarta last July already entered into the transitions from PSBB into the beginning of the new normals, we have trained them. We have activities that basically ask people or encouraging people to follow the protocols, to understand the how COVID can be spread out from people's, and how to avoid basically crowds, and how you need why you need to wear masks every day, every time you out of house, or we basically encourage people to stay home unless it's necessary. In doing the work, the volunteer team divided into 6, as I mentioned, about medicine and non-medicine. We also training divisions. We have a support divisions. We have the community, and we have people who do the protocols, and we have the communications, because we need to send the message out as far as possible. What we do in the medical, basically we're recruiting. We also, right now, because it's already 4 months and 5 months, almost 5 months, people are tired. So there are a lot of people have a nervous breakdown, and that's why we now utilizing volunteers and the counseling service. This goes to the public, but also to the medical practitioners, the doctors, the nurse, because they are in a very stressed environment. They work already for 5 months, and it's a constant stress. People also have the same issues in general. For the non-medicals, the latest project, we going to the markets, the traditional markets, all the managed by the government, by provincial government, by the municipality government. It's we send 5 volunteers. They will be there in 14 days, basically reminding people, and we hand out maskers for those who haven't wear. We hand out the face shields, like the one Sena make, and basically we maintain our presence to remind the people, not only the merchants but also the buyers in the market. We provide training. We work with a lot of institutions, including Save the Children. We work with UNICEF, and basically all the ministries provide their materials to us, and we spread out to our volunteers. This is type of the works that the initiative that we done. We have a student stand support. We go to warung near the colleges at the time of PSBB, at the time of the controlled shutdown. We already spread out about 40 portions per week in the last 2 months for 2,200 students. This is a college students that coming from outside Jakarta and stay in the colleges in Jakarta or in other cities, but they're basically not from local peoples. Basically, they are coming from the other province. We provide food package also, the sembako to Jakarta Greater Area, to Manado, to Ambon, other provinces, and we provide a lot of protocols and procedures. This is where our volunteers work heavily involved in giving input on the protocols and procedures, because they are the one who go out to the field. So basically, this is the time for us to become volunteers. It's easy because it's impacting everyone and everyone can contribute. We basically support the government programs. We support the medical staff because there's the last resort for us. We support the affected families and vulnerable groups. And we try, in doing that, discussing about positive issues and help each other. The key to being the inspirations in volunteering work, we have to enjoy the work. We keep the gratitudes, and we need to be involved. Basically, we remind all volunteers to implement these three keys, because people already quite suffering a lot outside. This is pictures from the actions that we have done. In the far left, it's the when we distribute PPE to a grave digger for COVID. We also, on the right side, it's the initiations of one of the warung for mahasiswa, for the college students. This is the discussions and publications that we regularly hold. This is where Pak Jokowi come to our headquarters, to BNPB. And these pictures are coming from our market initiative, the Pasar Tangguh, where we give face shield, we give all the everything, all the PPE. We give foods also, but the key in doing this are a constant visit. So we are there for 14 days and then we come back for monitoring. So we challenge with the changing behavior. So this is not an easy task. But we also support fishermen by purchasing fish and sending to the hospitals to be processed. So we help on the both side, the merchant and the people who need the additional food. So those are activities that have been done by the volunteer task force. We are now aiming on the 8 provinces. The one that those 8 provinces comprise of 74% of COVID-19 affected people in Indonesia. So the government wants us to go out to those provinces, and starting with the 3M program. 3M, they said it's memakai masker, mencuci tangan, dan menjaga jarak. So those 3 campaign, we need to do it every day, and we need to remind people on the importance of doing that. So that's my presentations. We hope you can do your part. This is the opportunity for us to play our roles in the society and help the nations in fighting COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for enlightening us with a lot of information, and therefore we have many questions from our students. They've been patiently waiting. So students, you can switch your camera on when speaking. We have Rania and Chris.
Hi, I'm Rania, and I'm from grade 11, and I just want to ask, Given the large number of volunteers, how do you ensure that there's good organization and efficiency in the work done?
And
Yeah,
we we have Chris as well. A lot similar question, but different. So maybe Chris can ask his questions first, and then Mr. Andre can answer both in one go. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, so my question is, how do you measure the effectiveness of an initiative?
Okay. Basically, we divide because COVID-19, this pandemic is affecting all province. Everybody is affected by it. So our volunteers are basically work in their neighborhood. We don't want them to go outside too far from where they live. For example, if they're join the Pasar Tangguh, the market project, it will be market near their locations. So if we have a initiative in Pasar Minggu, for example, or in Tebet, our volunteers that work basically live around that area. So first they know the peoples, they know the area, and we don't want them to go too far from where they live because it can be affected or infected other peoples. And based on that, we have a small groups, and of course right now the technology help us a lot. So the report coming with the geotech, the spatial, so we know where they send the pictures, we know where the report coming from, based on posts from their handphones, and how we measure the success, the effectiveness of our project. We're still doing it. So we set up a monitoring and evaluation team because again, this is a changing of behavior. It takes time. We work based on priorities. Of course, when we work with the hospital, we help the nurse. We have the doctors in their works. We providing PPE and everything. It's based on report from the hospital. So we have the task force itself have website or apps. They call it Bersatu Lawan COVID. They have a hospital report. They call it the hospital online, rumah sakit online. And then the Ministry of Health have their own website. They call Peduli Lindungi. So based on those three apps, we have an access to back end of it, and that's where we review our success basically. So this is a collaborations between many ministries led by task force, and we as the coordinating volunteers, we have access to that to measure our success and to again grouping everybody's coordinating the works. Of course, in the first 2 months, this is challenging because we gather all organizations that never worked in coordination before. So I don't know people's. I know few of them in Jakarta, and we have to basically synchronize how we work. That's also the challenge. It takes up about 2-3 weeks to adjust the pace, to adjust the understanding of between all organization involved.
Thank you. Is that okay? Excellent. So we have another question from Sherry. Is Sherry there? Okay. Sherry wanted to, is she here? Sherry wanted to ask, and I think this is probably a question for Mr. Stan. What does it mean by more than just grades? What do universities look for in applicants?
Great. Thank you, Ms. Alma, and thank you, Sherry. First of all, I want to take 1 minute to thank Andre for coming here and helping to inspire our students and everyone who's watching with this example of what they're doing with COVID-19 and the National Task Force. Thank you so much. So yeah, what do we mean by more than just grades? Basically, universities around the world are getting more and more competitive. It's getting harder and harder to get into top universities. Just as a quick example, if we look at the top ones, if we look at Harvard, the acceptance rate is about 5%. If we look at Singapore National University, if we look at University of Hong Kong, if we look at Imperial College, if we look at Tsinghua, these are all universities that have under a 10% acceptance rate. Universitas Indonesia right here, very hard to get into as well, right? So really, really top-notch universities that are getting more competitive. And the reason is that they're having more students with good grades and good academic skills that are applying, and universities just don't have enough space to accommodate so many students, right? So in the end, they have to pick and choose. So Harvard, for example, getting a 5% acceptance rate means that they are rejecting 95%, right? A 5% acceptance rate means 95% of those who apply get rejected. And these students are not bad students. If you're a bad student, you don't apply to Harvard, right? The application fee is $100. So you don't want to waste your money or your time, right? So these are good students. And if you talk to the admissions officers, they will tell you almost all of these students are academically, they're qualified to come to Harvard. And I'm sure Universitas Indonesia would say the same, and I'm sure so many other universities would say the same. They have a lot of students that are academically qualified, but they don't have enough space, right? So what they have to do is they then have to go beyond the grades. So universities are looking for students who are going to make an impact in the world. Students that are actually going to do something impactful and meaningful, whether it is giving back to the community, doing something that really helps the world become a better place through charity or community service work, whether it's someone who will invent the next big thing, whether it's someone who will help their country become more developed and help people, get out of poverty. They want people who are going to do things in their respective fields. So in order to find that, one of the things that they're going to be looking at is what students do outside of the academics, outside of the grades, and outside of the test scores. And that's when they start looking at the rest of the student resume. So they're going to look at extracurricular activities, right? What did the student do in school other than grades? Were they in Model United Nations? Were they, in a computer club? Were they in a Habitat for Humanity? Were they helping in COVID volunteering work? Were they doing things that are either helping their community or developing other skills apart from the academic side? So that's one thing. They're also going to look at, courses that students took. They're going to look at all of these different things. And I really like one of the things in Andre's presentation, which I thought was very, very, good and really highlights how or what we mean by beyond grades. And that's the skills needed. So if we look at the skills needed that Andre listed, soft skills, respect for others, self-confidence, creative thinking, resiliency and agility, hard skills, communication, management, networking, information and technology. These are all skills that are needed to be a good volunteer. And they're also skills that are needed to excel at university and then succeed later on after that in whatever career or whatever thing it is that you're going to do after university. So I think that really highlights the connection between the two things, between volunteering and also getting a higher chance of getting into universities. So universities know that students who volunteer and who do these things have these skills, right? And that's why they're doing that. So yeah, I mean, in short, and to not take too much time, what universities are looking for are students who are going to be doing more than saying, more than talking, right? So they want students who are taking action. So not just saying, oh my gosh, you know, coronavirus, this is terrible, COVID-19, and there's so many problems going on, and why doesn't someone do something, right? No, they want someone who says, you know what, there's a lot of problems, but I can do something, and I will do something. So they do something, right? And I think, you know, Andre's task force and all these volunteers that he's heading, thousands, Vijjasena, our student, with his group that he created with other students, creating 100,000 face shields, right? These are high school students who could have just sat there and said, oh my gosh, this is terrible, someone should solve this, right? But instead of just sitting there, they actually decided to do something and to become part of the solution and to be proactive. And that's what universities are looking for. And that's what's going to help differentiate a student with good grades from a student with good grades who is going to have an actual impact in his community and later on in the world. So I think that's, that kind of sums up what we meant by beyond grades.
Wow, that's very, very good advice. So I hope we can learn a lot from what Mr. Stan said, okay? And I think in relation to that, Fatima and Sherry had another question as well. Fatima first and then Sherry, you can switch your camera on.
Hi, so my name is Fatima. I'm from grade 11. And my question is to Sena. How did CAS help you in your university application process?
And we'll ask Sherry to come on if she's able to.
This question is also for Sena. What do you think made you stand out as an applicant?
Go on, Sena.
Okay, so first I want to thank Pa Andre for giving a very motivational and informative presentation. So first, to answer Fatima's question, I feel that CAS has allowed me to find and take on opportunities that I would personally not be seeking. So it basically gives me like an initial push in the direction of figuring out like what I want to do in a way that it kind of in some ways it forces you to get more exposure, try and see the world and try out activities, a balance of activity, creativity, service. I think that by being slightly pushed out of your comfort zone, you actually get to find activities that you are passionate about. You find what your like activities that give you meaning, and I think that from there it would really help your process going into university, because at least at the very least you can write in your university essays how CAS has allowed you to like find meaning, grow as a person. And I think those are like key points that personally really helped me like move along my university process. To answer your question, Sherry, after talking to some of my peers at Yale, I would say I am not a standout applicant, but just an opinion. I think what made the interviewers a bit wow was the fact that I had some activities that were related to what I wanted to do in the future, and like I had a clear plan, and I drew like my plans based on personal experience, and the personal experience was CAS. So it was one of the projects involved in installing solar lighting system at a nearby old folks home, and basically from there I just talked about how like it would be nice if there would be energy equality for everyone. And I think that's one of the most impressive parts of my application, according to like people who interviewed me, is that I already had a clear idea of what I wanted, and at least I have some experience that actually builds onto that idea, makes it a personal idea and not something just, oh yeah, I think that would be nice, theoretically that would be nice, but it's actually something that I know would be nice because I have prior experience. I think. I hope that answers your questions.
Wow, some very good tips for our grade 11 and grade 12 students, right, Mr. Stan? Now, with after Mr. Andre's presentation, you should have a lot of ideas of how to, get involved in the current circumstances. Okay, we have one from Sarah.
Okay, hi. So my question is also for Sena. And I know you've already mentioned some advice, but do you have any other advice to the current grade 11s about starting their own CAS projects?
Okay, so, well, current advice, my advice would be at the beginning, explore. So even in fields that you might not be that interested, for example, if you enjoy indoor activities, try something that's a bit more outdoorsy, just for exploration purposes, at least for one semester. That way you get to gauge like which areas you might be interested. Like you'll be surprised how you could still like change your mind. So even if you think, oh yeah, I'm definitely never going to be interested in, let's say swimming, for example, and you try swimming and you make some good friends, and maybe you'll end up loving swimming, right? You just never know. So taking time to explore would be good, but make sure that you don't explore like all the way, so you don't go overboard with like extracurriculars. That was my problem. If Mr. I tried to take on too many activities, and I held on to like these activities for a bit too long, so it no longer becomes exploration. At that point, it's just comfort zone, but it takes away time from your studies. And even though grades aren't the only thing, doesn't mean that grades don't matter. So those build onto your grades. Without the grades, you don't have a foundation. Your building will collapse anyway. So my advice would be explore, but don't over explore. I think that would be a good place to start. Right? If Mr. Stan has anything to add on. Right?
Yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. And I mean, you just went through this whole process, so you have it all right there, and it's great that students can hear from you. I'm actually going to have to leave in like 2 or 3 minutes. I have another webinar right after this for our grade 11 students in the DP and their parents. However, the only one thing I guess I would add is Sena made a good point by talking about how one of the things that impressed universities was that he had already done something in the area he was applying to. So this is something that we always encourage our students to do. So for example, Sena with the solar panels, which he installed in several old people's homes. Then we have Howard, who got into several Russell Group universities, got into Tsinghua top universities, and he created 4 different apps, right? So he was applying to computer science, and he didn't just say, oh, I want to study computer science, so someday I can create apps. No, he said, hey, when he applied, he wrote, well, I want to study computer science in your university because I want to become a better programmer. I'm already a developer, an app developer, and I have 4 apps. One of them is a game, which is on Google Play. So he developed a really good runner game. Then we have, several other students who have created businesses, right? They've created online businesses. Some of them have even invested in the stock market. A student a couple years ago did that. Some of them did baking business, right? So when they apply, they don't just say, I want to study business, so someday I can be a businessman. No, they say, hi, I want to study business in your university because I am a businessman or businesswoman. I have already created a small business doing this, selling cupcakes or selling t-shirts or whatever it is that they decided to do, right? So that's something very important that Sena did, and that a lot of our other alumni have done, and that a lot of our students are currently doing. So I really like that video that we saw in the beginning that highlighted some of the projects from our grade 10s, right? So an app that is going to try to help rescue or help the Javanese language survive, right? How to degrade plastic. So these are all things and projects that the students can then submit to the university and say, you know what, I want to help solve the plastic problem that the world is facing. And I have already done this in high school, and I want to learn more so I can do even better, right? So that also is what we mean by beyond grades. So definitely some good examples here, even in the panel with students who have done that. And I'm actually going to go ahead and say goodbye. And thank you everyone once again. Thank you, Andre, Sena, Ms. Elma, and all the other students here. And enjoy the rest of the webinar. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for all of the advice and tips. Very valuable or invaluable for our IBGP students. Thank you. Grade 11 students will see Mr. Stan again a bit later on. Okay. We have a question from Bianca. And this can be for both speakers, I think, right? Hi, Bianca.
Hi. Yes, my question is, how do you think families, school, and community can support service learning projects?
So, Sena, you want to answer that? Maybe first, and then Andre can also.
Yeah. Maybe Andre can go first because he's the more experienced part of the field.
Well, you've experienced leading these initiatives, and then Andre can add the the other aspects aside from the students' perspectives.
Okay, so personally, I think one of the largest contributing factors that helped the creation of Teen COF was that the support system of like your friends like really matters. So first with the idea, we developed it among a small group of friends, and then we talk to more friends, and friends lead to more friends, lead to more friends, and it just grows exponentially. So I think the first step of getting anything started would be getting yourself a team of like dependable individuals who can help you, because it's hard to create like significant impact by like on your own, right? So having a community that like builds you up, right? That's very important. Also, I think parental support, or maybe for more adult audiences, it would be like more experienced people. Having more experienced people helping you also matters, because in the start there were some parts of the idea that wasn't exactly feasible from a medical point of view, that we did not know. So we had to consult with like doctors, so that we understood like what is required from these like face shields, why these parts should be removed or replaced, and things like that. So I think having a supportive community, but also making sure that you have like pointers, people who know what they're doing, and people who can like help you with what you're doing, so you don't make the basic mistakes at the beginning that could be like significant, or at the very least slow down your like efforts or things like that, I think. So I think those are like two like important aspects of the community that you should like make use of, or like you should try and immerse yourself in. Andre?
Thank you.
Yes, of course. The how parents or family or school can support this initiative, I think their presence are very important, because again, as a young adult, some of this initiative will need support from parents or from your community. For example, in the task force, in the volunteering, in June, when it's a school holiday, we have 6 or 7 high school students wants to join the initiative, and because the RS involved, we consult with the parents, and we decide, okay, you can do it from your home. At that point, we do a campaign. We try to send a message in a different local language. So we ask the students to research and to meet people from several areas in Indonesia, so they can give a campaign in a local language or on the local manner. That's why we think it's very important to understand the local wisdom. This will involve the parents and sometimes schools also in directing that. And I think that's where the community comes from, and that's where the involvement is very important. I think, yeah, that's how I see it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have so many questions from the students. We're limited, we're pressed for time though. We're almost to the end, but maybe as a final round, I'll invite 3 girls, Kyra, KK, and Kayla. That was just a coincidence, 3 Ks. If you can ask your questions, and then Mr. Andre and Sena can just answer them in one go. So Kyra first.
Yes, hi Pa Andre, hi Sena. My question is, what qualities would you tell your younger self to develop in high school?
KK?
Hi Pa Andre, hi Sena. Why do you think it is important to give back to your alma mater?
And Kayla.
Hi Pa Andre, hi Sena. My question is, what message do you have for our friends who are watching right now?
Okay, on the first questions, I think I need to give my younger self be more active. I'm enjoying my life too much at that time, but I think, yeah, it's a challenging time now. But you keep things running, keep the positive thinking. It's important. Need to be brave and bold. Sometimes it's also important. And if I can say, in this pandemic, there's always a silver lining. There's a lot of opportunity for us to contribute, a lot of opportunity to show people that we care. And with this pandemic, I think by reminding people around us to stay home is already a big contributions. Reminding them to how to wear a mask appropriately is already a good contributions. So so many things that we can do. My message to people that joining us right now is that we need to encourage ourselves and see the opportunity to contribute, because many people out there need our assistance, and we are, I think, part of the lucky ones that we can be able to contribute our times, contribute our efforts, and I think that's many people need that now. And you can be creative, because so many opportunities that people look into, for example, like online learnings. We've seen that a lot of students have difficulties on that outside big cities in Indonesia. That's the opportunity I've seen drive of collecting old gadgets and contributing to people outside Jakarta and the remote areas. So many things that we can do, basically. Thank you.
Thank you, Pa Andre. Sena?
Just personally, I think that for me, there are a lot of like things I should develop, right? I should develop patience, maturity, blah blah blah, things like that I should have by the time I graduate. But I think what applies to everyone would be I think patience applies to everyone. So there are times when I'm doing CAS that I feel like, there's too many reflections, like this is ridiculous, this is like child abuse at best, right? There's like too much work. But turns out it really helps with like university planning, because like the reflections you write at CAS, you can, if you write them like properly and not like try to like fill them right before like the deadline like me, you should be able to like copy paste some of the information for university essays, just because it's like that reflective tone. It's something that I think universities appreciate. Like it shows like that you're like mature if you're like reflective. Right? So just yeah, I mean it can get annoying, but like just go with like the things you're supposed to do, right? And just get it done, and hopefully you'll learn something new, right? At the very least.
Thank you. I think that was, I have to apologize. There were still questions that didn't get to be asked. I'm really sorry for that. We are almost out of time, but I think we have to start thanking our speakers. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your insight, and your experience. Mr. Andre, Sena, and Mr. Stan, who has left. And thank you to our audience tonight. Hopefully you can take away many useful points. And Mr. Andre, we have a token of appreciation from Sinarmas World Academy that will be with you soon. Thank you very much again. Before we end this webinar, thank you to our student panelists. They have had a long day. They've been here since 7:30, right? Going to school online. So thank you to them, but they would also like to show their appreciation to everyone. So students, if you could switch on your cameras. Ready, everyone? And they'd like to say thank you. Excellent. So are you ready? 3, 2, 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.